there's been so much that's been happening to me in my life, it seems like recently. And I've always been wondering if this is something that's happening to me or something that's happening for me. And then the other question has always been, why is this happening to me? Welcome back to another episode of The Highlight Reel. I'm so glad to be back. I know it's been a minute since the last time you've seen me. I know it's been a little while, but I figured that it would be a good time to come back because I've been off for a while. Just too long to me. But there are so many things that have changed about me as a person since the last time you saw me, because now I have longer hair, things like that. I'm also 25. The last time you saw me, I was 24. Well, if you count Juneteenth, I was 25. But the last time you really saw me in this kind of setting I was 24. And there have been so many different things that have changed in my life and so many things that I've experienced in that short amount of time that I think have really formed how I'm starting to think about things going forward, because of what has happened in my life. Now, I will go in detail on some things, and other things I won't go in as much detail about. But to be completely honest, I've been feeling a little off in a way. So, like I said, I'm 25, and I feel like I'm at this weird, not a midlife crisis. It might feel close to it, but it feels like the way I think about things is starting to change. And I do hear that happens once you turn 25, as far as your brain fully developing and everything. But I think it's been more so about the experiences that I've had, because I'm starting to think that I need to do things differently if I want to lead a certain kind of life and I want to have certain results or outcomes within my life. But I've been feeling a little off. I feel like I'm old enough to know how certain things should go, or how I should react or act in certain times. And then I feel like I'm still young enough to make those same mistakes. So it's like this weird in-betweener spot, because I don't know which one I should be leaning more toward, or if there is somewhere I should be leaning toward. Since I typically think that as I'm 25, that there's a certain path I should be on, or I should be at a certain place by now, which is something else that I struggle with, as far as feeling like there's somewhere I should already be and I'm not there because of something that I've done. I think I play a part in that as well, because I want to have a more productive and a more proactive way of thinking about my life instead of just reactive. But I've also thought about how there's been so much that's been happening to me in my life, it seems like recently. And I've always been wondering if this is something that's happening to me or something that's happening for me. And then the other question has always been, why is this happening to me? Now, thinking between these three questions, there's been a lot that's been going on. Because I'm thinking, why is this happening to me? That makes it more reactive, or kind of in a way that is not productive. Sounds like I'm kind of complaining and I'm just, wallowing in my negative thoughts. Then, is this happening to me? That also is kind of reactive and not as optimistic. But if I'm thinking, is this happening for me? It allows me to flip a situation and think about it in a more positive way, to think about, okay, this is happening. Somehow, some way, I'm going to be able to use this experience in the future to be able to have a different outcome, or to be able to kind of predict or prevent what I think might happen because something similar has happened to me before. But in thinking about all these different things, it's made me think about how I need to be thinking about things moving forward within my life. Because again, I'm 25, young adult, still a younger person, some would say. And I feel, there are times where I feel like, for lack of a better word, kind of fraudulent in a way. I feel like I should be in certain areas sometimes. And I think because of my decisions, or what even happens to me, I'm not where I think I should be. And that makes me feel like I'm not who I say I am. Now, the reason why I bring this up is because I'm thinking that there is someone else out there that may be listening to it right now, or that may listen to it at a future point, but that will be at the same point and think, how am I not there yet? Or how do I see these people there and I'm not there? It's like feelings of feeling fraudulent, somewhat imposter syndrome in there, maybe just thinking I'm not there, or should I even be there because these things are happening to me. So for example, something that happened to me ironically is I got my car broken into, and that was very recent. And when it got broken into, I laughed about it because it was shocking, to be quite frank. It was very shocking because I'm thinking, wow, this has never happened before. So how do I deal with it? Now, it was easy for me to move forward because I had to fix my window. So someone broke into my car by breaking my window, and I wasn't super sad about it or anything. I just knew I got to get it fixed. Like, they didn't steal my car. They took some things, but they didn't took anything of super significant, of very significant value. It was a gallon of water, a workout bag, some shorts, and some earphones. So it wasn't really that bad. It was just more so the fact that someone broke into my car. So it's making me think, well, why is this happening to me? This is something that at least seems rare amongst me and whoever I'm friends with. So why is it happening to me? Why is that happening to me? Also, I would say maybe just choices that I've been making in relationships, whether that's with friends or someone I might be attracted to or anything like that. Just certain decisions that are made on my behalf or on their behalf, but thinking, how is this happening? How is this happening? What did I do? What can I do differently to make sure that I have a different outcome in my life in the future? Because these are all things that are, I will be honest, they are affecting me. And I'm wondering, how can I flip these situations to work out for me? So, for example, if I make a decision that I don't think is the best, or I learn in hindsight, I could have done better in that situation. What I've tried to do now is I don't really try to beat myself up about it. I do think about, okay, now you know better, just do better from here. And once you do better from there and you're actively doing that, then at least you give yourself a chance to redeem yourself and yourself a chance to do better. Because again, it's mistakes. So I'm making mistakes one way or another. And it's hard to deal with that sometimes because when you make a mistake, you feel like you're better than that. But what I have learned in this experience is I am human and I'm learning what I am capable of, positively and negatively sometimes. So with learning those things, I'm learning what I'm capable of, but I'm also learning that, okay, I can't bounce back from this if I allow myself to. Because again, when I'm asking the question, is this happening to me or is this happening for me? It makes me think about, what can I do to think about these things differently? And I've realized that there is a choice in there. So if something happens to me, for example, my car got broken into, this might be a poor example, but it's the quickest example I can think of. I could think, why is this happening to me? Or, is this happening to me? Am I a victim? Or is there something in this that I could look at differently to maybe do something better in the future? So I didn't really have much in my car, but maybe if I would have put it somewhere else in my car, then I could have maybe had a different outcome. That's just a quick example as far as seeing how one situation unfolds and what you can do differently to make sure that it goes better in the future. Because I want to make sure that we can have a positive outlook on these situations that happen, whether we make a mistake or not, because you're going to make mistakes as long as you're alive. You're going to make mistakes. But as long as you can flip it on its head and say, okay, I know that now that I have this experience, I can do this thing differently whenever this situation arises in the future. And it allows me to bounce back faster. And I can give myself some grace even if I do make a mistake. But as long as I'm trying to make a better decision, then I can live with that. I can live with that. Because again, is this happening to me? Is this happening for me? Why is this happening to me? I've asked myself that question many times in my life when certain things happen. And I think that's the natural response to have when something is happening to you. But I think it's important for us to be able to switch it around and say, okay, or think of it from a more productive perspective and say, why is this happening to me? What can I take away from this? What can I learn from this? Because if I don't learn from this, I might be in this situation again and again and again. So how can I figure out, or what is it that I need to figure out to make sure that I can have a better result going forward? And I just thought this was very important to talk about today because, again, being a 25-year-old young man and having ambitious goals and things like that, sometimes on the path, any wrong decision I make, I feel like I'm kind of hindering my progress, or I'm not going to get to that point when it's really not a really linear timeline. It's a life experience and it's a marathon. So as long as you are learning and you're making your progress, you can still get there. But I've had a hard time sometimes thinking that I can still get to these places I want to get to or doing these things that I want to do because I'm not where I'm where I want to be as of this moment. Now, that is a problem that I need to deal with, but I know that there is someone else out there that's likely thinking the same thing, because for some reason, I would say, of course, social media has a part to play in it, along with comparison and things like that. But as I'm getting older, I'm starting to realize, okay, yes, I'm 25 and I'm young enough to make mistakes and old enough to kind of be aware of certain ones. But then you almost start to feel like as you get older, you kind of get away from those things. And to an extent, I would say that's true, because I would think, when will you learn? At some point, it's important for you to learn. But that's where I'm at. That's currently where I am as far as just being 25 and thinking about these things and just what's transpired in my life throughout this year and in the last several months since you've last seen me. Because I know that early this year I said, this is the year it could happen. This is the year that your life could change. Now, with that being said, it still is. It still is. Your life could change really quick, extremely quick. But you have to give yourself a chance. And I think that enabling yourself to think this way will allow you to do that, because you're thinking, okay, well, 2024 is over. I messed that up. Or 2025 is over. Whatever year it may be, you're thinking, man, I messed up. Now I can't bounce back at all. That's not the way to think. That's not the way to move if you want to move forward and progress and be more positive and proactive with the opportunities and the experiences that you have. Because if you don't think that way, then you kind of just sit and you won't make any progress, thinking, dang, I messed up. I'm not perfect. The only ever perfect person I've ever heard of is Jesus Christ. So other than that, if that's not your name and you ain't him, obviously none of us him, look, it's going to happen. It's going to happen. So I want to say that to basically encourage you, whoever you are, whoever is listening to this or whoever it is that's watching this, to just think about things a little different as they're happening. Because when you can think about what about this is going to empower me in the future to have a different outcome, how can I think about this more productively, more proactively, so I can live a more positive, productive, optimistic kind of life and be able to bounce back from my mistakes. Because I have a hard time doing that sometimes. I make a mistake and I think, man, I know better. And sometimes you do, but you have to do better from there. That's the difference. You might know better, but once you start to do better, that's when you have the actual difference in your life. And I do want to leave you with this quote that I actually read recently that I thought would resonate, because it kind of touches on the choices that we make and also the perspective and the attitude about our lives. So this is a quote from James Baldwin, and it reads, "People pay for what they do and still more for what they have allowed themselves to become. And they pay for it very simply by the lives they lead." Now, I'll read it one more time. People pay for what they do and still more for what they have allowed themselves to become. And they pay for it very simply by the lives they lead. Now, when I think about that, people pay for what they do. So whether you're doing good, whether you're doing bad, one way, your life is that's going to show up in your life one way or another. But you also pay for it by what you become. So you can bounce back from these maybe poor decisions that you make, and you can also springboard forward from the good decisions that you make based on what you decide to become, because you have a choice. So is this happening to me? Is this happening for me? You have a choice in how you think about that. If something is negative happening, you can still flip that in a way and say, okay, how can I bounce back from this? What can I do to strengthen myself or be a more resilient person in this life to make sure that I'm getting to these things that I want? And of course, by the life that you lead. So once again, looking back on your decisions, you can either sit in those and not make a difference, or you can make a choice to change some things, and that will show up in the life that you lead. So for the final time, people pay for what they do and still more for what they have allowed themselves to become, and they pay for it very simply by the lives they lead. Now, I'm hoping that you're able to flip your situations on their head and you're able to think about things more positively and realize that you do have a choice in what goes on in your life. You might not always make the best decisions because you're expecting yourself to be perfect. Just understand and accept that you are not perfect and you're going to make your mistakes. I've learned that, and that's one of the things that I've had to really sit with in the last, I would say, few months, because some things have happened in a way that I would have liked to have gone better, but they didn't necessarily go that way. So how can I bounce back from that, and how can I make a change? That way I can still springboard forward and make positive decisions so I can lead a better life. Now, I think that was just important to share because, again, I'm 25. I know some other people that may be listening and watching, maybe 25 and younger and older, and you're still in that same spot. So I just thought it was very important to share. I hope that you've been able to take something away from this episode, because I want to be here to encourage you, of course. And also, we're definitely going to have guests this season. Don't worry about that. We got some great things in the works. But I wanted to share that because I think that was something that was on my mind, something that was sitting with me, and something that I felt was very important. Because for some reason around this time, I kind of get in my feelings about how my life is going. Because in the summer, I'm like, ooh, I want to be outside doing all these different things, but there's just been things that have been going on that have made me think different, and I've had to sit and reflect on. So I wanted to share these things with you. I wanted to encourage you, and I hope that you've been able to take something away from this episode of The Highlight Reel, and that's been your episode. Peace out.